kicking back on this summer breeze. Welcome to Double K's Classroom. Class is officially in session.
The following Four Aces production is for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is highly advised.
Hello. You welcome to this week's edition of Double K's Classroom as I, Double K, walk you through another day at the Oakland Raiders training camp, or some of the issues going on at Oakland Raiders training camp, I should say. For those of you that don't know, let's recap a little bit about last year. The Raiders finished 4-12, dead last in the AFC West. Derek Carr did have a decent year, throwing for over 4,000 yards. Doug Martin ran for over 723, for over 700. Jared Cook was the leading receiver with 896. And let's see, the offense as a whole only averaged about 18 points a game, only scored about 30 touchdowns, averaged about 234 yards rushing, a passing game, and 102 yards rushing. Respectable numbers as far as statistics go through the air and on the ground, but as a team, they just couldn't seem to put it together. The loss of Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper left big holes in the Raiders team last year that they were unable to fill until this year. They did replace not Antonio Brown. They did replace Amari Cooper with Antonio Brown, which is an upgrade, if I do say so. They drafted a kid at running back, Jacobs, this year that it seems to be pretty good. We'll see how he does in the Raiders offense. And they have a solid offensive line, even though they did just recently sign Richie Incognito, and he ended up getting himself suspended, or he ended up suspended within the first couple of weeks for the first 3 or 4 games of the season. So John Gruden is doing something over there in Oakland. What? I don't know. But they're doing something to try to make themselves a better football team before they move along to Vegas. There have been rumors as well that Derek Carr may not be joining them in Vegas. I don't know how this is going to happen when he's under contract, but we'll see how it all shakes out. One of the Raiders' biggest issues last year was their inability to be able to move the ball on the ground. The combination of Jacobs, Washington, and Warren should be able to help solve that. Jacobs is a speedy back, small guy who can move in between the tackles, and I expect him to be able to put up some bigger numbers this year than the running back core did last year, maybe reaching close to 1,000 yards with a couple of the other running backs coming in behind him. This should help get the Raiders a few more wins from the offensive standpoint, because they'll be able to put up more than 18 points a game. That's brutal. Like, when your defense has to hold a team to 2 touchdowns or less every game, that's literally straight brutal as far as what the defense has to do. And that defense, as good as it is nowhere near good enough to be able to hold a team to 14 points or less a game. I believe last year they gave up 21 points a game. So with that being said, I just don't see them I just don't see them improving their record unless their defense steps up, or unless their offense steps up and puts more points on the board, which it possibly can. Like I said, Antonio Brown is a huge weapon to add this offseason. The offensive position battles that should be taking place this offseason are very simple. You got tight end. At this point, the penciled in starting tight end is Luke Wilson, but it's going to be between Wilson and Carrier as to who starts. Carrier has the ability and the skill set to be able to take over that starting spot. It's a matter of does he have the drive. They'll be starting with second-year player Colton Miller at left tackle. Left guard will go to Richie Incognito when he comes back. They got Hudson at the center, Gabe Jackson at the right guard, and overpaid Trent Brown at the right tackle. I say overpaid because the man was, in fact, overpaid. But if he fits into what John Gruden is trying to do, then it may work out for the Raiders' best interest. Can they turn what was a moribund offensive line into one of the best in football? Man, we'll see. I don't necessarily trust John Gruden to do that, but I can see him turning that defense into a tough-nosed defense with some of the additions that they added. But I'll get to that after the commercial break. Let's talk about Derek Carr a little bit. Derek Carr is easily one of the top 10, 15 quarterbacks in the league when he's playing at his best. The problem with it is Derek Carr isn't always playing at his best, and I believe it was 2 years. Last year he went down with injury, and 2 years ago he missed a couple games for injury, so he's got to be able to stay on the field as well. He's actually had a better start to his career than his brother Derek did with Houston, but that's also because Houston refused to get an offensive lineman that could protect Derek Carr, and it ended up with him ending up in some very actionable positions where he had to make throws that did not go well, which is why he led the league in interceptions, I believe, 2 years in a row, 2 out of his first 3 years, which you would expect out of a rookie quarterback, but Derek Carr was a lot better than that. Or not Derek, David Carr was a lot better than that. Derek is the brother that plays for the Raiders, sorry. David Carr was a lot better of a quarterback than what his numbers showed. And also what his record as a starting quarterback showed. I believe that the Raiders have a solid shot to turn into a solid team this year. Will they make the playoffs? Like I said, it all depends on how things bang out. But they have some big holes to fill with Khalil Mack. They managed to fill the one with, Marshawn Lynch retired. Doug Martin is gone, so Jacobs is going to have to fill in that hole rather nicely. Jacobs in Washington and or Warren is going to have to fill in that spot. Maybe they go with a three-headed monster like San Francisco is planning to do at some point this season. But other than that, the Raiders' offense should average more points, should get a few more touchdowns, and should average a higher yards per game than they did last year. So that should help. I figure I could see them peaking out at about 23 to 24 a game, which should put them in the top 15 in the league, which should be good enough for them to get more than 4 wins. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and go to our first commercial break. When I come back from that, we'll take my lesson of the day, where I discuss why LeBron James is one of the greatest players to ever touch a basketball court, and also one of the most overrated players to ever touch a basketball court, all at the same time. You ask Kyle? Stick around after the commercial break and find out. You're listening to Double K's Classroom right here on the 4 Aces Presents Radio Network, Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and CastBox.
So, what's up? Steve Fingerstyles here, the host of the podcast, spelled DA, of course. Tune in each and every week to hear what pisses me off, what angers me, what I make fun of, and of course, my crazy rants. I also have incompetent co-hosts, cool guests, and a silent producer that sucks. So what more do you need from a podcast? You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and the Pod Bros Network. Peace.
From the galactic depths of the comic book universe comes the ghosts of the stratosphere, ready to galvanize and energize your mind with the latest of comic book news and reviews. And why are you stopping me?
Yes, that's much better.
Hi, this is Andy Larson for Ghosts of the Stratosphere. Join me every week along with my co-hosts Rob Stewart and Chad Smith, as well as a cavalcade of fantastic comic book guests as we dish out heaping helpings of the greatest and latest of comic book news and reviews. New shows posted every Tuesday with bonus shows every first Friday of the month. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher under Ghosts of the Stratosphere, as well as on our website, www.gotstratosphere.com. Hope to see you soon, folks.
Tune in, folks. It's now time for Double K's Lesson of the Day.
All right, so let me start this out by saying point blank and simple, I'm going to offend some of y'all with what I'm about to say. LeBron James is by far, statistically, on court, etc., one of the best basketball players to ever touch a basketball court. I don't take away from him in his ability or his skill, but people far overrate him as far as where he belongs in the pantheon of great players. They put him up there with the likes of Wilt, with the likes of MJ, with the likes of Kareem, with the likes of Magic, because his skill set is as good as theirs. But his accomplishments are a lot more overrated. We live in what I call a participation trophy type society, which means that it's good enough to get there even if you don't win, because people have to feel good about themselves instead of learning how to take the drive that comes from, in order to learn to take all the feelings and all of that come from losing in a big championship game or something like that, or an NBA Finals or a Super Bowl, and turning that into motivation the following year to get better, is lacking. We've got a whole generation of children that think it's okay to just get there and lose. And they ask questions like, well, why does championships matter so much? Because championships are what the goal of playing the game is. Whatever game it may be. You're playing hockey, your goal is to win a Stanley Cup. Your goal is not to get to a Stanley Cup Finals, and I'm happy with that. No, your goal is to win a Stanley Cup. If you get to the Super Bowl, your goal is to win a Super Bowl. Your goal isn't to get there and be happy with getting there. Your goal is to win a Super Bowl. The goal in every sport, including the NBA, is to win a championship. So if the goal is to win a championship and you've gotten to the championship round and lost more than you've won, I'm sorry, you don't belong in the pantheon with the great players. Because the great players, the top tier players, get there and they win more than they lose. That's what makes them elite. If that's the case, then that means Jerry West is on the same level with Magic Johnson, and he's not. I love Jerry West. Jerry West was one of the top players of his day, but he is nowhere near on the level of a Magic Johnson. And the main thing that separates them is the fact that when Magic got to the championship round, he won. He won games. Jerry West had a stacked Lakers squad when he went to the finals. He went to 9 finals or 10 finals and went 1-9. Yeah, he achieved the goal of getting the one championship that everybody wants, but he missed 8 other opportunities to get a championship. We should be talking about Jerry West as one of the best point guards to ever play the game. For frick's sake, he's the logo. But we don't. Why? Because Jerry West went 1-9. You tout these LeBron fans tout his points per game as if points per game are an end-all, be-all stat. They're not. W's and L's is the only end-all, be-all stat. How many W's did you get? A lot of regular season ones? Then guess what? You're Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning will never be considered better than Tom Brady because Peyton Manning got there and lost. Tom Brady gets there and wins. Not every time, but more than he loses. So, yes, as an old school person, there's a part of me that wishes that we can go back to the day where people understood that. When people understood that the reason why they're playing the game, the reason why they're giving their blood, sweats, and tears is to win a championship, not just to get. How many times have you heard losing teams in a Super Bowl, NBA Finals, or World Series say the purpose isn't just to get here, it's to win? No, this isn't good enough because the purpose is to win. If the purpose was just to get here, then shit, might as well go ahead and hand out trophies as soon as you get there. Ain't no reason to play the games because who cares who wins? Because the purpose is just to get there. Yay! It's fine to find moral victories and saying, well, shoot, you know, we weren't even really supposed to be here this year. Everybody counted us out, and we got here. Yeah, we lost, but we got here. There is some ability to be able to feel. How do you say? To be able to feel good about yourself as far as moral victories. But as far as comparing you to the other greats, sorry, if you're getting there and losing, you can't surpass people who've gotten there and won more than they lost. Now, I've gone over this statistic before, but the way I always calculate it out when it comes to LeBron is when you're comparing LeBron and MJ, okay, you say to yourself, Jordan had stacked teams as well. Okay, even though the first time around Jordan didn't have a stacked team. He had a dynamic duo, him and Pippen, and a bunch of role players. But let's take it. The first three-peat, let's say Jordan had a stacked team. The second three-peat, let's say Jordan had a stacked team. So that means LeBron and Jordan are equal to how many times that they've gotten to the finals with a fully healthy, stacked team. Meaning more than one all-star, more than themselves is the only all-star on the team. Okay? 6 times apiece. Say it to yourself now, LeBron fans. What is Jordan's record? 6-0. What is LeBron's record? 3-3. LeBron has 3 wins when approaching the finals with a stacked team and healthy team. I give him passes on like 2007, 2015, and in 2017. I give him passes on all 3 of those years. But every other year that he went to the finals with a stacked team. Okay? So every other year, LeBron has gone to the finals with a stacked team. He has 3 losses. He lost 3 times while having more, not just one, but more than one all-star on his squad. Now, we're not counting the other 3 losses that he took, only because of the fact that, like I said, either his team wasn't healthy or his team wasn't stacked. Okay, we'll give him passes for those years. But 6 out of the 9 years that he's reached the finals, he's had a stacked and healthy team. 3 of those years he lost. If you can't take a stacked, healthy team and win a championship with it, sorry. When the other guy that you're competing against, that you're chasing, that you want to be like, won every single time, never lost. Matter of fact, not only never lost, never let a single series get to a game 7. But I'll end this on an interesting point that I saw the other day in one of my sports groups, that Jordan, it was a picture showing Steve Kerr and John Paxson and their game-winning shots for the Bulls, and then showing Kyrie Irving and Ray Allen and their winning shots for the Heat and the Cavs, respectively. And it said, and you say LeBron, that these 2 saved LeBron's career, but you won't say that these 2 saved Jordan's career. And it was a very simple point, salient point made by one of the people that commented on the post that showed exactly what I'm talking about the skewed mentality of LeBron fans. The shots that Jordan, that Paxson and Kerr hit, the Bulls, I believe, were up 3-2, or at least were tied with the squad that they were facing, which means that even if they miss those shots and they lose those games, there's still another game left to be played. There's still another opportunity for that team to win. In both in case of the Kyrie shot and the shot by Ray Allen, if the Heat and the Cavs lose those games, it's series over. The LeBron's teams were down 3-2 in both cases. Or no, 3-1 in the case of with the Spurs with the Heat, and down 3-2 in the case of tied 3-3 with whatchamacallit. So that meant if Golden State wins that Game 7, that Kyrie hits that shot, it's game over, lights out, done. So we're talking about the difference in 2 shots between LeBron being 3-6 in the finals and LeBron being 1-8 in the finals. That saved his legacy, because you go 1-8. And there is no argument for you as the greatest player. It doesn't matter how many statistics you build. It doesn't matter how many statistical records you break. If you go 1-8 in the finals, look at Jerry West. 1-9 in the finals. And Jerry West is not talked about in the GOAT conversation. And Jerry West is not talked about in the greatest point guards conversation. 1-9 in the finals is the major reason why. So if LeBron is 1-8 right now, nobody's even trying to hear anything about him being a GOAT. So, yes, the Kyrie shot, the Ray Allen shot saved LeBron's legacy. Because if they don't make those shots, they lose that series. Point blank and simple. It's a salient point that LeBron fans don't want to admit, but it's a valid point. And it's the reason why he's 3-8 or 3-6 in the finals right now. But the fact that the greatest player of this generation, I will repeat that for you one more time. The greatest player of this generation is 3-6 in the finals. We've never seen that. You can go back decades, and you'll never see that the greatest player of that generation had a sub 500 record in the biggest games of their respective careers. But yet you want to sell me that LeBron is better than all of them. Get out of here with that. I'll see you guys next week or in 2 weeks for Lesson of the Day. Right now we're going to take that next commercial break. We'll come back and we'll talk a little Raiders defense right here on Double K's Classroom on the 4 Aces Presents Radio Network. Like I said before, iHeartRadio, Speaker, Spotify, CastBox, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and, well, hell, right here, right now. Peace.
Tune in, folks. It's now time for Double K's Lesson of the Day.
Hey guys, this is Venice, and I've got a message from a friend of mine about my favorite podcast.
It's your boy, Flavor Flav in full effect. Check this out, everybody. I want y'all to go check out TJ.
What's good, everybody? TJ Johnson here for Voice from the Underground. I am the most handsome.
Big Has.
And I'm smoking my cigar, of course.
You know what I'm saying? The Dutch.
You pick me up in an Uber and a PT Cruiser, I'm calling Lyft.
Cause they be fighting the power, talking about social issues, politics, you know what I'm saying?
And we're not even that good.
Right, we're terrible. Terrible. Tangents all over the place.
And not only that, but they be keeping it fun with the sports, music, comics, and movies too.
Am I allowed to talk?
I think no, not right now.
Shut up, colonizer!
You know what I'm saying? He on Twitter at VFU Podcast. Yo, you can find them. So check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy.
Okay, what Flav was trying to say is, check out Voice from the Underground on your favorite podcast network.
Voice from the Underground.
Interruption in progress. Now hijacking into ANS 2.0 immersion rig. Now simulating the amazing nerd show. Featuring comics.
And Batman's like, you're safe here and everything, but the Joker all of a sudden pulls out a gun and shoots himself.
Movies.
People fight with lightsabers. What the hell do you want? I mean, in every one of these movies, there's a lightsaber battle.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna rewatch it a million times.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, give me something more.
Wrestling.
That would be awesome. Oh my god, just a monster. Fans would be like, holy, what the hell's going on? What happened to Jericho?
Horror.
It starts off like any other like home invasion type of story, and then it just goes crazy.
And more.
Hey, this is Christian.
Hey, this is Dan.
And we are the Amazing Nerd Show.
Make sure to download us on all your favorite podcast platforms.
All right, so there you just heard from Flavor Flav and Venice for the Voice from the Underground podcast and Amazing Nerd Show podcast. Catch all of those guys on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, along with Ghost of the Stratosphere and Dub Podcast. They're all great shows. Listen to them a few times myself. So now let's get back to this Raiders defense for a minute. Now, like I said to you before, this is the biggest part of the team that needs to improve. The offense needs to improve by a little bit, going from about 18 to about 24 points a game in order to start getting more wins. But this defense definitely needs to hold people under 20 points a game in order to guarantee that this team will have a successful season. I'm not guaranteeing the playoffs, but I'm guaranteeing a better season than they had last year if the defense can hold opponents passing to under 240 yards and definitely stop giving up 141 yards on the ground. Defense had a -7 or a +7 with turnover ratio. So they have a lot of holes to fill. Like I said, Khalil Mack was a big one. They went out and signed Vontaze Burfict. They got Whitehead to try to fill in. They have P.J. Hall and John Hankins fighting for the defensive tackle position. And you have Joseph and John Abram fighting for the other safety spot next to LaMarcus Joyner, who will most likely be the starting free safety for the Raiders this season, which should help shore up some of their defensive backfield problems. But once again, you need both of these young cornerbacks to step up and do good. At left end, you got Key, first defensive tackle. You have Hurst. Hankins is the penciled in second defensive tackle. Farrell, the rookie out of Clemson that they drafted with the number 4 pick for some odd reason. Like, rumor has it they could have gotten him at the number 20 pick or one of the 20 or 24, but I guess they just didn't want to take the risk, so they took him at number 4. Coney will take over the first linebacker position with Vontaze Burfict at the wheel. Brandon Marshall from Denver Broncos, I've forgotten they had signed him, at the Mike position, and Lee at the Sam position. They're going to need Lee to crank up his game and get some sacks in order for them to be able to force some more turnovers. Conley will be starting at the number 1 cornerback position with Nelson starting at the number 2. And then, like I said, the penciled-in starter for right now is Abram, but he could be taken over by Joseph. If not, I don't see Joseph making the team and being on the 53-man roster to start the season, because I don't think if Carl Joseph turns out to be the player that John Gruden wants, he'll keep him. Because that's just kind of how John Gruden works. But should this defense be a little bit better? Well, you got some more Gruden guys in there, so it should be a little bit better than it was before. But will it be a top 10 defense in the league, top 15? Like, I expect San Francisco to make the jump from about middle of the pack, 18-19, to about 10-12, maybe a top 10 defense this year with the additions that they had. The Raiders will need to make a jump from where they were, which I believe was like 25th in the league, to top 15 in order to be able to turn their season around, maybe look at a 500 season or better. I could see them winning a maximum of about 8 games, but the worst case scenario, they could do exactly the same as they did this year or worse. So what that means for John Gruden's future is where I'm a little bit lost, is because he signed to a 10-year deal. So if they have 2 bad seasons in a row, are they going to stick with him? Who knows? But other than that, the Raiders are a solid squad. They got the move to Vegas. I wouldn't count on them making the playoffs this year, but I would count on them definitely having a better showing, trying to give Oakland something on the way out, to be proud of on the way out. But we shall see. Other than that, love the look of the Raiders, love the new additions, hope they get better, and I'm still waiting for a Niners-Raiders Super Bowl. Hopefully I'll see it in my lifetime. Maybe when I'm in my late 80s. Who knows? But other than that, y'all have a great night. Sorry this episode came in so late. Didn't have time to record it yesterday, so I'm recording it today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for the first edition of the Cheap Pop Podcast with myself, Double KK Double, and Alpha. We'll be talking Spider-Man Far From Home. We'll be talking a little bit about the Lion King remake. We'll be talking about, what else? the events of Comic-Con and Marvel's announcement for Phase 4. And then we'll also be taking a look at WWE Extreme Rules, as well as Fighter Fest for AEW, the New Japan G1 circuit, and other random topics in wrestling and video games. So be sure to listen in to that, 5 p.m. tomorrow night, right here on the 4H Presents Radio Network and all of our affiliated podcast places. And y'all have a great night. This has been Double K, and you just done listening to Double K's Classroom. Peace.